Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. It's Mr. V. Thank you for coming back. Make sure you hit that subscribe button. We're going to do part 2 of the lesson now. Okay, so we've done factorizing quadratics. What we're going to look at now is how we can solve quadratics which are already factorized. Make sure you're still at your desk with your book, and we're going to get started now. Partner discussion. You can maybe talk to a teddy bear or maybe your sibling or something like that. If I told you that a times b is 12, what could A and B be? What values could they have? So pause the video, come up with at least 2 answers to that. Bonus points for being creative with that. Okay, so for example, you might get really a simple, obvious answer. 2 times 6 is 12. You could get 3 times 4 is 12. 1 times 12. Are there any other combinations? Well, you could have, for example, half times 24 to give you 12. There's lots of possible combinations there. So what about if I gave you this? X plus 5 multiplied by x plus 4 gives you 12. Well, the same idea still applies. This, for example, could be 3, and this, for example, could be 4, which would multiply to give me 12. But that means that x has to take a specific value. So what would x have to be to make that blue bracket equal to 3? Well, x would have to be -2. And in this case, what would x have to be to make the green bracket 4? Well, x would have to be 0. Now, there's lots of other combinations. I just happen to have chosen 3 times 4. You might come up with other combinations there as well. But you can see we're kind of looking at the idea of 2 brackets. I mean, we've got a quadratic here. We're going to build on this idea for the next question. Well, what happens if I told you that when I multiply these 2 things together, I get 0? Well, what combinations could we come up with? Well, it could be 1 times 0 is 0, 5 times 0 is 0, 12 times 0 is 0, and essentially I could go on forever. I could even have fractions, I could have decimals. So there's an infinite number of answers here, but what I do know is that these terms, one of those terms has to be 0. So what happens when I give you the same question as before, except I've changed the answer? So now when I multiply these 2 things, I get 0. So we know that, well, if the blue bracket was 0, well, then x would have to be -5, because -5 plus 5 will make 0. Or we can say x is equal to 4, -4, because -4 plus 4 is 0. So how could we make this equation true? So using what we've just done on the previous slide, either we can see that there's 2 solutions here. So either x minus 3 equals 0, or x plus 4 is equal to 0. And now I need to solve these to find what x is. And now I'm actually writing a proper method out here. So I'm going to add 3 to both sides, and I get x equals 3. And in this equation here, I'm going to take away 4, take away 4. So x equals -4. So what would happen if I gave you a different pair of brackets which still multiply to give you 0? These are slightly harder. Well, we're still doing the exact same thing here. So this bracket on the left, if I told you that 2x plus 5 is equal to 0, or the bracket on the right, x minus 4 is equal to 0, well, to solve it, I'm going to need to subtract 5 from this side, subtract 5 from this side. So 2x equals -5. And then I'm going to divide by 2, divide by 2. So x equals -5 over 2. Or, in this case, it's a bit easier to solve this one. I'm just going to add 4 to both sides. So now I get x equals +4. So I've now actually just solved this quadratic by this quadratic, which is already factorized. I can see the solutions are x equals -5/2 or x equals +4. So I'm going to do one more example on the left, and then you're going to do the example on the right, and that's going to be part of the work which you upload later on. So I can see the equation on the left, either 3x plus 1 equals 0, and then I can take away 1, I get 3x equals -1, and then I divide by 3, so x equals -1/3. Or the second bracket, x minus 5 equals 0. I can add 5, so x is equal to +5. So my solutions, which I put in a box here, are x equals -3rd and x equals +5. So you're going to now pause the video, have a go with this. I'm not going to show the working out for this because that's something that you will show in your book. Your final answer, however, should be x equals +2/5 and x equals +3. Okay, so true or false? Now, you should be copying these out as we do them and giving a reason to these. So x minus 1 times x plus 2 equals 0. That means that x will be 1 or x will be -2. So I can see when I expand and solve these two, I get x is 1 and x equals -2. So that's true. Question 2. X times x minus 6 equals 0, so x must be +6. Well, I can see the first bracket is true. However, the second bit, we can actually say there's a bracket there. So x can also be 0, so it's only partly true. There's half an answer missing there. And in the third one, 6 minus x times 5 plus x is 0. That means that x must be 6, -6, or x equals -5. Is that true or false? Well, I can see when I rearrange 6 minus x equals 0, I get, if I add x to both sides, I get 6 is equal to x. That's obviously not the case here, so that's false. The second answer is correct though. So again, not completely correct answer. Okay, second set of true and false. You don't need to copy these ones out. 2x plus 1 times x minus 3 is equal to 0. X equals -1 or x equals 3. Okay, so pause the video, try to figure out the answer and then decide whether it's true or false. Okay, I'm going to tell you the answer now. So you should get x equals -12 for the first one. So because I have to take away 1 from this side, so I get 2x plus 1 equals 0, take away 1, 2x equals -1, and then I divide by 2, so x equals -12, which is obviously not one of the answers there. And in this case, x minus 3 equals 0, plus 3, x is equal to 3. So this bit works, this bit does not. Okay, next question, true or false? Decide if this works. Okay, so if you've expanded that out, you would have got 2/3 and -1/5, so that is true. And then the last question, expand this one out, slightly harder question with negatives. Okay, so let's have a go with this. So 1 minus 4x equals 0. If I add 4x to both sides, I get 1 is equal to 4x. And then I divide by 4. So that tells me that x is a quarter. So I can see that's wrong. And then for the second bracket, 3x plus 2 equals 0. So x, when I rearrange this, I'm going to take away 2, 3x equals -2, and x equals -2/3. So that part of the answer is correct, but one of those is wrong. So overall, it is not correct. Okay, so this exercise is going to be attached to the Google Classroom, or you can just pause the video and you're expected to solve all of these quadratic equations by the methods that we've just worked out and upload the pictures of your working out to Google Classroom. I will see you in the next video. Smash that like button and buy some merch. Here are the answers for you to check. We still need your working out for those, and hit subscribe.